A couple weeks ago, I was, when I knew that the Vikings would probably be, in a deep run in the playoff, I thought, I'm going to get to see Pierre. That's going to be awesome. They'll probably bring the whole crew down there because when you do news in a city where there's a championship, that's the only time in the news business anymore where the budget gets hey, let's open it up. This is our chance this is the chance to make the ratings for the next year. This is how we build on it. This is how we improve. This is those are the events that happen.
Game was on Fox this year. Game was on Fox this year. Totally different story. Yep.
Yeah, you have all these things. Yeah, you've got to promote it because it's on your actual station. Everybody has to watch it on you. So you have to be out in front. So everybody, I remember when it was in Dallas, everybody, you just saw everybody. Yeah. Everybody was there because you have to, take the opportunities of these moments when stuff, you never know when it's going to happen, right? And that was just because it was in Dallas. But when a team is playing in it, that's when – the money bags get opened. And it's not a thing that happens in the media business often. You can tell them, hey, you can do this all the time. We can go cover events and no.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then when it happens, suddenly you're oh, so we do have money in the budget. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah. So they go every news station in a city will be there. There's media night, which it is now, which I haven't been to since they changed it, but it's just a ridiculous circus. But when you would go, the thing you'd have a problem with was, you got to try to get content for it that's you and the people you're talking to. So I'll just give an example of one time. I can't remember where I was, but it's one of the Patriots ones, maybe Indianapolis. But so I'm at media day, the Patriots. I'm trying to you try to go to the podiums and get Gronk and Brady. You can't. There's just a wall. So what you do is you make a list of who's on this team that has a connection to the market. So I was I've got. Josh Boyce was from Copper's Cove, and he was on the Patriots, although he was not on the active – he probably was not going to be on the active roster for the game. He was there, he wasn't going to be active for the game, but he was there, and he played in some games. And so I was I know Josh. I'll go talk to Josh. Well, what I didn't realize is that every newspaper, website, everybody in Boston was trying to get as much stuff as they could. And so I go over to Josh Boyce, a guy who's not even going to be active, and I had to wait 15 minutes to talk to him. And it's just because there's just all these people there, Yeah. Look, at the Super Bowl in Dallas, one of the few people that we wanted to talk to for sure was Steelers punter at the time, Daniel Sepulveda, because he was the punter at Baylor right before that. Well, what I didn't realize about Daniel Sepulveda is he was one of the 4 bilingual players in this game, and every Spanish media outlet that came to this thing was going to want to talk to him. So I had to sit there and listen. And then the other thing is, because I speak a little Spanish, I'm I'm going to ask him a lot of these same questions in English, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. But I mean, we were going to talk about Baylor. And so, I'll tell you, the only time it's ever worked out for me is, so Aaron Ross, who played defensive back for the Giants.
Yeah.
He's married to Sonia Richards-Ross.
Yep.
Legendary American hero Olympian.
Played at Texas. I interviewed Sonia one time when she was training in Waco, actually. She is an absolutely delightful woman. She really is. Yeah,
she's they're like one of the coolest sports couples ever.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Texas Sports Hall of Famer Sonia Richards-Ross, I believe. Yes.
Absolutely. So, but Aaron's from East Texas, and he and Smokey are very good friends. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there was a period in Aaron's life where Smokey was kind of a confidant for him. Sure. And so Smokey said, "Look, go up to Aaron Ross, tell him it's for me, and you'll get as much time as he can possibly give you." So I go up to Aaron Ross, and I said, "Hey, I'm Paul. I'm with Smokey. He texted you." And he's like, yeah, I got you. He's like, "Let me just talk to this guy real quick." And it was a Spanish news station in New York. And the guy keeps asking questions. And finally he goes, "Listen, brother, I appreciate all of it, but you got to get he's like, you got to get the F out because I promised my man here I'd talk to him, and you're not him. And I was like, and again, this is the first time we've ever met.
Wow.
And it's because of his relationship with Smokey. Yeah. And so I get back on the bus, and Smokey calls, and I'm like, and he goes, did you get Aaron Ross? I was like, yeah, I got like 12 minutes with him. He's like, that's a long time. I was like, yeah, right at the end. He just told the guy to go away so he could talk to me. And I was like, he goes, I said, yeah, I feel like I feel seen for the first time in my life. And like
100%. 100% you do.
So even though he was a New York Giant and a Texas Longhorn, two things I find morally reprehensible. Right. I would lay down in traffic for Aaron Ross because of that. Like,
what a beauty.
It was, yeah. And you hear so many stories about guys being dicks. That like when you like encounter, and sometimes it's true. Like sometimes it's just, oh, that one time you caught him at the wrong time. He was mean to you. No, he's not like that. That's not how it is. But you do on Super Bowl Media Day, like half the people are jerks to you, like because they don't want to be there. It's a thing they don't normally have to do. And so you go through it and it's a slog. And then you have that like one moment that's like, oh, Aaron Ross, thank God you exist.
And that includes, I will tell this very brief story, especially the first Super Bowl I ever went to, Super Bowl 50, like I said, back in the Bay Area. And one of the main reasons why I did not approach Dan Marino is because I've heard stories, and I think that includes one story from Paul in particular. And I said, I cannot go up to Dan Marino and have Dan Marino ruin Dan Marino for me. I just can't do it. I absolutely cannot do it. And that's why I stayed away from Dan Marino, because if Dan Marino was a jerk to me for whatever reason, I can't tell you just how absolutely devastated I would be. It would just be pure devastation for me and something I probably couldn't handle. I couldn't handle it. So that's why I never approached him.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the actual NFL playoffs, Pierre. Yeah. I'm curious as to what happened to the new Sam Darnold that we'd seen.
Did
the Lions break him?
You know, it's weird because after that, if you go back a week before to the Green Bay game, if it wasn't for the absolute stellar seasons that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are having, if you looked at the body of work, save for one game in Jacksonville, Sam Darnold would be talked about as an MVP candidate, especially if you go back to the end and you look at the numbers of the way he played that game against Green Bay, because Green Bay, I think, closed as a road favorite in Minnesota in Week 17, and Minnesota just absolutely, they kind of let him back in the game late in the game, but that game wasn't close for 3.5 quarters. So that was the moment where I felt, because all season long, especially on our Vikings Now podcast at Fox 9, all season long, I have gotten bombarded and berated by Vikings fans when I have said I'm still just a little too hesitant with Sam Darnold. I'm not ready for him to fully earn my trust yet. And then the Green Bay game happened, and I was like, okay, I'm on board here. I think we've got a brand new Sam Darnold. In that game, however, the Green Bay game, there were a handful of throws that he airmailed. There were a few throws that just weren't on target. And then you saw it in the Detroit game, and I thought to myself, it's a high-stakes game. He didn't play well. The whole rhythm and timing of the offense just didn't look right in that game. Maybe it was just one of those games. And then you saw it again. Granted, he was under duress. He was sacked, 9 times in the game against the Rams? But I would say a solid 3 or 4 of those instances, he held on to the ball too long. I understand you don't want to turn the ball over, but there were critical times in that game where you just could not take sacks, and he took them. So Sam Darnold kind of turned into a pumpkin, I guess, over the last couple of weeks. But, I'm in agreement with Kevin O'Connell, especially after the game. He said, I don't think this erases the entire body of work from what we saw with Sam Darnold this season, because we saw a new guy in a new system, and he completely turned his career around. I'm not ready to just completely dismiss him over the last 2 games that he played, but it's unfortunate that the last 2 games that he played were bad timing because it cost him the season.
Yeah, they are, and it cost them probably a little bit of money, but here's the silver lining is now the Vikings can just say, okay, we drafted J.J. McCarthy for a reason, which I think they were going to do anyway, but now they don't have maybe they just don't have the PR backlash that they have to do, especially, when Sam Darnold walks. And here's the thing.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com.
If I'm Sam Darnold, I'm not going back to the Vikings, money-wise, because they've got J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings. It would essentially just probably be the franchise deal they're going to give me for a year, which maybe I would do. But if you want that long-term contract, that big contract that even though he struggled down the stretch, there's only 2 quarterbacks that are going in the first round. And after those 2 guys are gone, which will be in the first 4 to 5 picks, maybe even in the first 2.
Yeah.
You like the teams that are at pick 8, like the Raiders, or at pick 3, like the Giants, or there's probably I'm leaving somebody out, but I would say the Giants, Raiders in particular could probably give him a little bit more money, even in a short 2-year deal, 2 to 3-year deal that he would get to go back to Minnesota, because they drafted J.J. McCarthy for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, well, Cleveland's another interesting spot, because if they draft Travis Hunter, what does Cleveland do at quarterback? I think that's another interesting spot as well. But here's the reason why I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit on Sam Darnold returning to the Vikings. And I think financially it won't make sense for him. And I think that's where it will ultimately end up, where those 2 parties part ways. But if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm thinking to myself, I just had the best season of my career. And in this offense with Kevin O'Connell, he brought out things in me that I have not been able to unlock my entire career. And I have to really take that into consideration in terms of what I want my career to look like after this season. Unless Matthew Stafford retires and there's suddenly a quarterback opening in LA where you have the same type of offense with Sean McVay, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be set with Brock Purdy. He's not going to go back there. He's not going to go to LA if Matthew Stafford wants to continue his career. If you're looking for a similar type offense with a similar structure, the Shanahan, the McVays, the O'Connells, it's not really out there right now for him. So that's where I'm starting to wonder if Sam Darnold says, maybe I will take a little bit of a discount to come back, but you have to have 2 parties here, because the Vikings signed Daniel Jones for a reason. Daniel Jones is not exactly your long-term solution, in my opinion, to anything. However, he is an affordable backup if you want to have somebody backing up J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy, you remember, had not 1, but 2 surgeries on his meniscus. 2. So I'm not fully ready to hand over the entire franchise to J.J. McCarthy until he can prove something to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you also have to, you used a first-round draft pick on him. I think it's responsible to clear the path. And you've got Kevin O'Connell, who's a QB guru. I think it'll mostly be fine.
But here's the funny part of this whole situation with the Minnesota Vikings that makes it even more interesting. The Vikings only have 3 total draft picks in 2025, 1 first rounder and 2 fifth rounders. Would you entertain a scenario? Let's be honest. J.J. McCarthy, if he was coming out this year, would probably be the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft class, I would say.
Yeah,
maybe 2 behind Cam Ward, maybe.
I still think Shedeur is the number 1, but yeah. So,
but either way, would you entertain the notion of trading J.J. McCarthy, re-signing Sam Darnold, and recouping draft capital to restock, your stable, so to speak, in terms of? I'm not saying that's what the Vikings are entertaining, and I highly doubt that would be a situation that they would entertain. But I think that's something that they might have to consider when you look at their draft stock and in terms of building this team. They do have a lot of money in free agency, and that's where this team is going to be constructed. I think it's going to be well more through free agency than the draft. But I think that's a situation where if somebody calls and makes an enticing offer, I think you should listen. I think you would have to listen.
Yeah, I think you would. And here's the thing though. They've got the cheat code right now because they've got a lot built around. Clearly, with the wide receivers are good, the tight ends are good, the offensive line's really good. Every running back they have is on a 1-year deal, but I think they can figure that out. Cam Akers, I think, will probably be back because Kevin O'Connell loves the guy.
Yep.
And then the defense is good. Like, you've kind of got it built. So, like, right now, with a quarterback in the rookie contract,
right.
Right.
And they have a ton, like I said, they have a ton of cap space. They have over $60 million from what I understand. They have 24 free agents, though. They're going to have to replace their entire secondary, right? Their entire secondary are free agents. So there's a lot of holes that are going to need to be filled via free agency. And yeah, you're right. If you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal and you want to groom him along, and that's an area where you don't have to spend a lot of money at quarterback, that's certainly a welcome sight for your franchise. So yeah, I don't really see a scenario in which Sam Darnold does return. I do think they will go with JJ McCarthy, but crazier things have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they don't have many draft picks, and that's the only way they can recruit that is to trade people, and he's the one you would think would be the most tradable, especially given the fact that because they have $60 million or whatever it is in cap, like you said, in cap space. It's not like you have to move somebody like a corner because you have 3 of them. You can just keep the guys that you have and not mess with it, and then roll that into, a couple of key free agency signings, your draft class, and book the savings for next year. So all that can happen. Okay, as of right now, what do you think? What is your Super Bowl?
Wow. As of right now, I want to pick against the Chiefs because I just feel like Buffalo and Baltimore, it feels like whoever wins that game, I feel like is ready to make that next leap, but it's hard for me to pick against the Chiefs now that they have home field advantage. So I am going to be boring, and I'm going to say the Chiefs and the Lions. I think it will be the Chiefs and the Lions in the big game, mainly because with Philadelphia, 3 weeks ago, I would have picked the Eagles if you had asked me. But there's something right now with the Eagles, the injury to Kobe Dean is big. There's something about the Eagles offense. This is a team that's led by their defense, really. Offensively, they got all the pieces in the world, but defense is really leading this team. But as banged up as Detroit is, I just don't know who's going to slow down that offense. I just don't know. The Eagles might, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs and the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ravens and Lions.
I could see it.
I'm going to say Ravens and Lions. Although the Chiefs are back at full strength, and that means there's going to be a lot like now that Hollywood Brown is back, and they've got
great offensive line too. That's a great offensive line.
Yeah, Pacheco is back. He wasn't there earlier in the season. They finally were able to let go of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was who was kind of done there. Yeah. They've made it work with the wide receivers they had all year long. The defense is super elite. Chris Jones will be healthy this week. That makes a huge difference. They lost 2 games this year. One to Buffalo, and the only game they lost in which they tried this year. Yeah. And then one in which I can tell you they didn't try with extreme prejudice because they would rather had Bo Nix in the playoffs than Joe Burrow.
Correct.
You'll never convince me of the hey guys, I know A+ effort to make sure you don't get hurt today, but if Denver wins, this is not the end of the world. So anybody who has an owie, raise your hand.
And there's gonna be the narrative out there too, and I don't really buy into this, but there will be the narrative out there that whoever emerges out of Baltimore and Buffalo will probably give it 150% in that game and get beat up after that game. It's such an important game that maybe there who knows how much there's going to be left in the tank when you have to go to Kansas City. I don't really buy into that too much, but I know that's probably going to be out there. It would come at this point next week.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see. I think I can't wait for the Ravens and Bills game. I can't wait. We're not going to have time to talk about Ohio State and Notre Dame, but I'll have you pick it before we go. We're not going to have time to dive into it because we spent too long talking about bullshit. But that's what, again, blank canvas, man. Blank canvas.
That's right.
I've approached this new year
We still have a little bit of time.
We do, but I don't want to shortchange your opinions, and we're kind of into this. By the way, Ed Werder tweeted out earlier today that, look, believe me, Ed would know that the Cowboys or Deion Sanders is very enamored by the idea of coaching the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones is very enamored with the idea of hiring him.
Yeah.
But until I see Deion and Jerry sitting at the Star together, talking about how this came together, and two brothers from other mothers, reunite, and how, their family and all these other things that would go into the Deion Sanders press conference. It is a publicity stunt. Because Jerry will do this, and then he'll be like, well, it just wasn't the right time for Deion. Wasn't good for him. Just wasn't, we're going to do what's best for the Dallas Cowboys. And, I think Deion's going to be a great coach. It's like a son to me. He had a toe operation. I told him I'll find you toes if you need them. I'll do that for you. But what's best right now for the Dallas Cowboys is this boring milquetoast offensive coordinator that I'm going to shove down your throat, or this head coach that's been fired 3 other times, but this is the place he can win it. So exactly. How's my Jerry? 1 to 10?
Yeah, I'd give it a 7. 7. See, I'd put it a 7 for sure.
Yeah. We'll get I mean that's what's going to happen. But I'm telling you, just as a Cowboys reporter, I guess I can probably still call myself that in regard to a podcaster and a fan of the team. It's a hamster wheel. Like, at least make it fun, So, are you familiar with the movie Swordfish, Pierre? With Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry?
Yeah, it was Travolta in that too?
Yeah, he was a bad guy. Yeah, he was a bad guy.
I think I've seen it, but I don't really remember it.
Here's why you'll remember it. There's no reason to remember it.
Oh, there is one. Yeah,
it's a total crap movie.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, and when I say this, I hope my wife and your fiance don't see this. Yeah. Just because I don't know if they'll get the metaphor
I think I know where you're going with this too, by
the
way. So,
if the movie is going to be absolutely terrible, take Halle Berry's top off.
Yeah.
At least give me a reason to watch. Like, I got to be here, so, And the thing is, it's like, I was in my 20s, early 20s when the movie came out. And even then, I thought the marketing was a little bit like, this movie must not be very good if, the one thing they keep telling me is, you got a surprise from Halle Berry. And all it is Hugh Jackman walks out to the pool. Okay. Halle Berry's sunbathing. She's got one of those little sunbathing screens. And then she drops it down and says hello. And they talk for a minute. And then he walks off and talks to John Travolta. And that was the production company of Swordfish saying, look, there's only 1 minute of this movie that anybody would be interested in.
Right.
Or they probably went through all that, and there was probably a scene where it just was Halle Berry clothed, as normal people are most of the time. And they said, look, the only way we're going to get the people out to this movie is if, it's a different time in Hollywood where you could say stuff like that. And then Halle's like, all right, give me a couple more million and, one per guy here, sure. And then you do it. So that's what it is. So Jerry, if you're not going to win Super Bowls, swordfish this thing, man.
Yeah.
Just give me some, because here's the deal. I actually think it's so crazy it could just work. Even though I don't think Deion's ready for the NFL just yet, I think he will be one day. I think he needs just a little bit more, seasoning. But who can talk to a ridiculous egomaniac better than another ridiculous egomaniac?
Yeah.
And one, yeah. And both of them have good hearts. I'll tell you, Jerry has a good heart. He really does. But it's all covered in money, Yeah. Deion has a really good heart. It's all covered in flash and Coach Prime, but he has a really good heart. Yeah. So, if you put those two things together, maybe, just maybe, it'll be crazy enough to work.
I don't disagree that it could be crazy enough to work. But I'm with you in terms of he needs a little more season, because right now Jerry is 82 years old, 82, 83, something like that. I don't think Jerry has the time to allow Dion to grow into the role. That's I think the biggest issue, because I do think that Dion can be and eventually will be a successful NFL head coach, but I don't think Jerry, I don't, at the risk of sounding morbid here, but as a guy who roots for a team whose owner is 84 years old, your time's ticking, and you don't really have a lot of patience. You want to see your team hoist one up, and if a guy is not fully ready, no matter if he's Deion Sanders or not, you're not going to hire him. So I wouldn't blame Jerry for that. So, but I'm with you though. That I think it is crazy enough that it could work.
It's hard because when people tell him these things, like, you don't want to hear, like, hey, Jerry, you got to start taking some risks because you're going to be dead soon. Like, you don't want to hear, like, I'm sure Steven Ross, you said, hey, Jerry's 82, Steven Ross is 84, you said?
Steve Ross is 84, I believe, yes.
Yeah. Steven Ross is 84. Like, when you tell him, like, hey, you got to start taking some risks because, like, if you wait too long, you're not going to be watching this from the stands, if you know what I mean.
Well, and yet Stephen Ross decided to run it back one more year, amazingly enough. Just insanity to me. So, yeah, I'm with you 100%.
I would take Mike McDaniel in Dallas in a heartbeat.
Well, I know that everybody would take Mike McDaniel as an offensive coordinator. Would you like Mike McDaniel as a head coach? I think that's another discussion that I think needs to be had.
Yeah. Yes, I would.
I mean, you know what? You can have him. You can have him. I've been from day one, from the moment he was introduced, I was like, this guy's not a head coach. He's not a head coach in this league. He's too chummy with his players. He's a great offensive mind. Don't get me wrong. He's a great offensive mind. He's too chummy with his players. He's too loose with it. I don't know if the guys take him seriously. I really don't. I never saw a head coach here, like, at least at this stage. Maybe later, but not at this stage.
Yeah, no,
you can have him. You want to trade for him?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll trade for him.
All right.
Yeah, I'll trade for him. Again, look, if you told me right now, if the Jones family came to me and said, Paul, we've been listening, you're our only hope. Like, we get it. Like, you are in charge. We're just going to sit back and write the checks. I'd be like, look, guys, and here's what I would tell them, honestly. Look, you've built the foundation. You've built the house. The outside is beautiful. The inside is beautiful.
Right.
You've got a lot of things, like the marketing is unbelievable. Everybody knows about it. This place is the biggest party in all of sports. Like, not only is it the best sports venue in the world, it's the best concert venue in the world. It's a money machine. I'm surprised that just occasionally $20 bills don't, like, appear in it. Yeah. Like, you're just sitting in a seat and be like, oh, look, there's 20s just falling down. They came from nowhere. Like, that's what I say. Like, all of that is good. You've done all that. That is now self-sustaining. It is self-sustaining. You have a bad year, guess what? Get the Jonas Brothers in here to do 3 shows. Boom, boom, boom. All your problems are solved. Right. Oh, you go 11-6 and lose in the second round of the playoffs. Bummer. Like, that's how it works. Like, Taylor Swift comes in and does some shows. It's all fine. The merchandise is going to sell. You're going to have a draft pick that you're going to convince all their fans is going to change everything. His jersey's going to sell. If you send 4 guys who are in the middle of the roster to a friggin' Whataburger, there's going to be a line out the thing. All that is fine. It's self-sustaining. But you need to redecorate, and I'm talking banners and trophies in this room. Yeah. And so, because you've got all that stuff, you've got the star, like, you are the envy of the entire sports world when it comes to everything about you. All that's great. But, just need to redecorate a little bit. Yeah. And the only way you can do this is exclusive. Look, Jerry, you're all about exclusive. I can tell you the story about the marble outside. The only way you can get this decorator to come in and bring in that thing, the only decorator is Roger Goodell. And the only reason he brings you the thing is you win it. So you got to go win to get Roger Goodell, interior direct decorator, in there to put up the banner and give you that trophy. That's the only thing that can make this place better.
It sounds like a reality show in the making right here. I just listened to a pitch of a reality show of why you should just be inside. Paul's interior decorations will start out at AT&T Stadium.
You know what? Here's the deal. You just year to year, what I will do, like we'll just do seasons of, I will go to different sports franchises that are not achieving their greatness and tell their billionaire owners, here's where you're running into the wall.
Yeah.
It'll be like a reverse undercover boss.
That would be a dream for me to do that to the Dolphins. That would just be a dream. God,
when we get to the Dolphins, I'll be like, this is my assistant Pierre. He has some thoughts.
Yeah, you wouldn't like him when he's mad. You won't like him. I like my dream job is for somebody to hire me at the Dolphins just so I can fire everybody else. That's the job I would be great at. I would be great at firing people. I'd be great at it.